Hello, my name's Joshua, and welcome to Inside the Music. So, today I'm just going to kind of go over what this channel is and what you will get from watching the channel, and like the videos that I will be uploading over the course of several weeks, I'd say. So, what I'm going to be doing is this is going to be a channel that goes over mainly the E flat tenor horn, but it's going to go over some music theory. This is not a theory book, but you will learn some music theory, you'll learn some skills for the instrument, and I will be showing off kind of different aspects of music. And this is to hope to gain some interest for the instrument, and maybe for anyone who's actually currently learning the instrument and is maybe wanting to find some extra support online. Because of course, if you don't have a teacher and you maybe want to try and find some videos, this might be a perfect video for you to just kind of learn the basics and understand the instrument, and also something that you can come and revisit consistently if you need to remind yourself. So that's what this channel is. I want to just do music videos and tutorials on different musical elements. And my main musical elements are going to be going over the tenor horn, as that's my first study instrument. And I just wanted to show it off because it's a very cool instrument, and also it's a brass instrument, which is, brass is not a very common instrument you maybe come across in like everyday life or just in music in general, depending on what you listen to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to briefly talk about the topics we're going to go over today, and if you want to consider this lesson 1, if you're doing this as almost like your lessons, that's perfect. So today would be lesson 1, and we're going to go over a few elements for the tenor horn, and I'll also maybe be able to discuss after these activities what else will be covered, so then you have something to look forward to, and maybe something that you can either research or just be ready to see when these videos get brought out together, because they'll be brought out in like in terms of lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, and so on. Okay, so the topics we're going to go over today, we're going to be going over the E flat tenor horn, of course. We're going to go over the instrument. Let me grab it quickly. This is it here. It's very cool. You get kind of, this is it's almost like a silvery brass. I won't say silvery, but silver brass, I guess. Obviously, normally brass, it's almost got that gold kind of color almost. But this is the one I have, and it's really good. I really enjoy it, and it's quite an old instrument. I think this one's 10-20 years old, I think. And it still has a nice sound to it as well. So that's what I really like about the instrument as well. So I'm going to go over the instrument. I'm going to give some background on it, why it's called the E flat tenor horn and what that means. And I'm going to try and take it easy, because if this is your first time doing music, then obviously I need to make sure you understand what I'm discussing, because it's a little bit difficult. It's challenging. So that's what I'm going to do. And I've got the book here as my trusty steed to help me out, because books are your best friend. So moving on from that, we've got holding the instrument. So I'm going to show you how to hold the instrument, and the best way to do it, how to do it comfortably, and using posture as well, because obviously it's good to have nice posture when playing the instrument, and as that allows for a much richer sound in a way, and also just makes you look a bit more professional in a way. And it's like it's like if you were playing guitar, for example, you've got a certain posture, you've got a certain way you'll do things. It's the same with brass, it's the same with strings, etc. So that's what we're going to go over. The third thing, we're going to go over the valves and the different valve positions and what that does for the instrument. So I'm going to briefly talk about what it does for the tenor horn and explain how they're used and why they're so important for the instrument. And then finally, I'm going to go over the mouthpiece. The mouthpiece is probably the most difficult part of the instrument, and it's the thing that will probably require the most time. So I'm going to spend most of the lesson on that, whilst briefly going over everything else. I'm going to use the book to show a little diagram, photo, and kind of explain it. In case you are a visual learner, you'll get to see a few images, and obviously I'll get to use it as an example and maybe provide some almost useful like acronyms or thoughts that you can use to remind yourself of how to do it, for example. And that's pretty much it. That's all we're going to go over for today. It's not going to be too complicated. It's not going to be too stressful. I just want to introduce you to the instrument, and just so that you understand what it is, and hopefully that you enjoy it and learn something new, because I hope that if you're learning the instrument, this will be really useful. But if you're not learning the instrument, I hope you still find this very, interesting, because it's still very interesting to learn. So in that note, let's just get right into things. So, the E flat tenor horn. This is it here. It's decent size. It's not big. It's probably like, it's smaller than because obviously you have euphoniums and a tuba, and this is almost like a very mini tuba, because tubas are obviously they're really, really big, and they're a much more bassier sound than this one. This is more of like a treble sound, which is something that's allows you to. This treble clef is something that you read in music, and it's just a key, for example. And I'll be going over that in the future, because I'm going to be going over some music theory, just so you understand maybe some of the stuff I'm talking about, just so it's not too complicated. So this is the E flat tenor horn. I'll play it for you quickly. So you got. There you go. It's a very lovely sound. Brass instruments have some really nice sounds, and I think they can be used really well within music. And I really enjoy it. I'm really happy with the sound that it can create and what you can do with the instrument. So it's an uncommon instrument. You don't really see it a lot. If you were to go to see a band or an orchestra, you wouldn't really see this instrument. And obviously, sometimes in modern bands, you might see a trumpet or a saxophone, because those instruments can work, but you wouldn't really see a tenor horn, because it's very uncommon, and it's a difficult instrument to work with sometimes. And the reason for that is because it's a transposing instrument. And what that means is, let's say, for example, you've got your keyboard and you've got A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and we play C, middle C, for example. When you play C on the keyboard for this instrument, it would be E flat, because I've been referring to it as the E flat tenor horn. No clue why, to be perfectly honest. It's maybe just the way the instrument was crafted and the way it just sounds, and that's just how it was interpreted in music, and that's why it gets called the transposing instrument. So, that's pretty much it. That's the brief history of the instrument. So, transposing instrument, it's uncommon, and it looks nice, and it's a fun instrument to play. So, holding the instrument. I'm going to do it both sitting and standing, just so you can kind of see how it's held, and then obviously I can move this stand away for a second and then show you how it is done. So I'll get to see it close up, just so it's easier to see. Now, what you want to do is you're going to be using your left and your right. Obviously, your left hand is for gripping it at the bottom, and your right hand is going to be for the valves. And you're going to be using your index, your middle finger, and your ring finger, whereas your pinky and your thumb is just kind of going to be holding it. So you can kind of see I've just been the way I was just naturally holding it there, but I'll go over it quickly. So with your left hand, what you want to do is the instrument this bottom bit of the instrument, it's almost like this is like its back, you could say. You want to grab it by the bottom and almost just hold it like that. So you can see I've kind of wrapped my hands round it, and then I've kind of got my thumb just kind of sitting, like holding this tuning slide. It's like the long tuning slide. You almost just want to wrap your hand round that tuning slide, and then obviously have your thumb like that, because then it sits comfortably like that, because you're then holding the instrument and you're gripping it. With your right hand, if I turn the instrument, your thumb goes under. It will go under like this little bit here. You can see where it's just gone under. So this is almost like the bit that connects to one of the tuning slides, but also if you follow it round, it takes you to the bell. So if you follow it round, you'll get to here, which is where the valves are, and you're just going to put your thumb through that bit. And then if I come back round, you can see thumb through there. It's comfortable. I normally just have it sitting like that, and then finger like that. And your 3 fingers on there, and then. And there you go. That's holding the instrument. So that's it sitting down. Obviously, you'll be holding it like that. So the instrument can obviously rest against you as well. But, you know, sometimes I'll play like this. Like it almost kind of slants a little bit. It slants a little bit like that. So if it looks like this, don't worry. You can also straighten it. But when I play, it's more comfortable like that. And if I stand for you really quickly, if you were to stand with the instrument, yeah, be like this. So you can see it's almost resting against kind of like my chest bit. My hands, you got my 3 fingers, the 2 are wrapped around it, one there, and then obviously you can see my hand is resting here, and then and there you go. You want to keep a nice posture when playing as well, because it's the most comfortable thing for playing, and it just kind of makes it a bit easier. Makes it easier to just play the instrument and get the most air. And speaking of air, we're going to then move on to our last point. It's not our last point, because we're going to go over the valves quickly. So you just saw what I did there. You heard a bunch of different notes and pitches, and the way you achieve that is with the valves. The valves create different sounds and different notes. Each valve represents pretty much a note, but not exactly as well, because some notes use the same valve positions, and some don't use any valves, for example. So if I play a C and a G for you, no valves required. It's just open, and it's all about technique of the mouthpiece, which we'll go over. Same again, but let's use some valves to create some other notes. So we'll go D, E, and F. And there you go. So you can see the valves create different notes, and we're going to be going over that in more detail as well. This is just to kind of show what the valves do, and it just allows you to understand them. So the valves' purpose are to create different notes for the instrument, and you can create sharp notes, you can create flat notes, and just natural notes, which again, do not worry if that makes no sense to you, because we will be going over this throughout our lessons. I just want to explain this to you, so maybe if you come to revisit this, you'll be like, now I know what that means. I now know what a sharp means, or I know what that means in terms of playing the instrument, or that makes sense why the valves do that and why that sound's created. It can be complicated, but do not worry, we'll be going over this all as we progress. This is just to introduce you to the elements of the tenor horn, so when we break them down individually, you'll be able to understand it a lot better, I think. And I hope so. That's the goal. So yeah, that's the valve positions. So sometimes you use valves to create certain notes. As you saw, D was 1 and 3. So you've got, if I go quickly, so if you're looking from here to the bell, the valve that's closest to the bell, this one here, that's valve 1. This valve in the middle is valve 2, and the one furthest away from you is valve 3. So for when I played D, it was 1 and 3, and that gives you. And then if I want to play C, you just lift them up. You can kind of hear it shifting up, down, up, down. And yeah, that's pretty much the valves for you. It creates different notes, and that's why when you hear some really nice pieces of music, that's how it's created on the tenor horn, or for some of the brass instruments. Okay, so our final point is the mouthpiece. So I'm going to take the mouthpiece out for now, and then I'm going to apply it to the instrument later. But what we're going to do is we're going to use this book. And I recommend, if you are going to play the instrument or are looking to get into the instrument, I recommend this book here. It's the Team Brass book. There we go. And this book is really good. It's by Richard Duckett, and this book really helped me to begin to understand the tenor horn. And it's also got a CD with it, so you can play along with it, and it really helps. And the book goes over pretty much everything, explains what things are, it even gives you a little bit of theory as well. So I'm going to be using this book a little bit, but I've also got some other books looked out throughout the lessons. But for today, we can use this book to go over the diagram, and I will show it to you. And just so that you can understand how a sound is created with the mouthpiece. So here we are. We've got our section here. I'm hoping this can be seen okay, but I can always move it a bit closer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually move the book a bit closer, just so you can actually see what we'll be explaining. So this section in the book here is going on about getting started. Now, obviously, for me, this is backwards looking at the camera, but that's okay, because I'll explain it to you. So you can kind of see it's to do with your lips and the sound you create. And obviously, you can see the diagram here. If I bring it closer to you, you can see it there. And it does give some information on getting started. So, what it says here is the sound created with the mouthpiece is to do with your lips and how you do it. So almost what you're doing is you're buzzing your lips together. It's almost like you don't tighten them shut, but you almost press your lips together, and then you're kind of using your tongue on the inside. I don't know if you say you're using your tongue, and you're kind of pushing air with it. So you can kind of see my lips go like that. And then if you put the mouthpiece, and there you go. This will take a lot of practice, by the way. This is the most challenging part. It took me a while, and obviously, it's quite a brief summary of what I've said. But you just want to imagine you're almost smiling a little bit. Like you can kind of see my cheeks are kind of gone like that. And you can see my lips are gone. And you just kind of push, like, because I'm like, but I never do it again. With the lips almost tightened in a way. It's just kind of like making sure you push them together to create that sound, and it allows you to use the mouthpiece correctly. Let's say correctly. It just allows you to create the sound. It's very challenging, so I wouldn't worry if you don't nail it on your first go or you struggle to get it. This is the hardest part of the instrument, and then once you've gotten that and you understand when you're buzzing with your lips, and because you're just so, and then if you want to practice it at home, it's just, you could always just, you can kind of see it like that. And if you hear that, that's me using my tongue, and it's almost pushing against it. It's like that pat, 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 pat kind of sound. But that's just, and that allows you to kind of leave gaps, because obviously when you then put it into practice, you can play long notes such as, and then if you're going to play with your tongue or tongued notes, and that's me going, it's like ta 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 ta, and it's almost like your mouth and your tongue, it's just like ta ta ta, and that kind of creates the tongued notes. And then obviously slurring is when you just kind of, you can almost move your mouth and like so. For me, I use my lips to do that. And yeah, that is pretty much it. When it comes to the tenor horn, we're going to go over all those again in different lessons, of course. And we're going to go over each of them separately and go over them in more detail and get a better understanding. So we're going to look at more notes, we're going to look at playing the instrument more and getting more comfortable with it. That's what each lesson is. It's to understand technique with the instrument and just beginning to develop and understand it and feel more comfortable with it and not have any stress with it. But otherwise, that is it for today's lesson. I hope you found it useful, and I hope you've enjoyed learning about the instrument, and I hope that you found something interesting. You can always go away and tell a friend, I don't know, maybe randomly tell them a fact about brass for some reason, even if they haven't asked, just tell them. And if, you know, they don't care, then they don't care. That's pretty much it. But again, I hope this has been really helpful, and I hope the lessons that I continue to post on Inside the Music will be useful for you, and that you can access them freely and as many times as you want if you get stuck or need a hand with anything related to the tenor horn and brass, and even some music theory when I do that. So that is it for today's lesson. Good job. I hope you've you've done well, and if you've played and you've managed to do something, great. If you've just watched and you've found something interesting, that's still great, and I'm really delighted with that. So this has been Joshua. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you again soon.